This is the last 24 hours in the news legal, governance, and civil rights. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB, warned staff that it may need to reduce its workforce due to new funding limits set by Congress. The agency is evaluating workforce optimization opportunities, which may include layoffs, depending on how court rulings go. The U.S. House passed a new defense policy bill with amendments tied to so-called culture war issues. The bill includes a 3.8% pay raise for troops, reforms to military procurement, and shortened approval timelines. Some Democrats criticize the additions as political rather than addressing core military needs. In related legal oversight, a judge denied or temporarily blocked action from the administration to remove Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. The administration has appealed. Crime, extremism, and civil risk. The news report of Charlie Kirk's fatal shooting, he was a prominent right-wing activist, is stirring concern about political violence. He was shot at a university event in Utah. Authorities are working a manhunt for the suspect. There were no new, confirmed, large-scale mobilizations of military or National Guard within U.S. cities in the last 24 hours, per current reporting. The prior legal struggles over troop deployments, e.g. in Los Angeles, remain active, but no new deployment announcements were confirmed. Policy shifts and institutional power. The CFPB's potential layoffs reflect a broader issue of federal agencies facing institutional strength challenges under new budgetary constraints. The defense policy bill passed by the House signals shifts in how Congress wants to shape military structure, not just funding, but the acquisition system, internal reforms, and greater political messaging through amendments. Consumer and Infrastructure Watch. Apart from the CFPB workforce concern, no major infrastructure disruptions or consumer product crises were reported in the last 24 hours. Also, the CFPB's staffing cuts could potentially degrade its ability to enforce consumer protections if carried out. Public Health Update. I found nothing new in the last 24 hours that qualifies as a public health emergency or major update at the federal level. International relations. No new significant foreign policy developments were clearly reported in the last day that met the criteria. Legal actions against the Trump administration. The defense policy bill and House-Senate negotiations are ongoing. While the administration can sign or veto, these aren't yet court-mandated legal actions. The blocked removal of Fed Governor Lisa Cook remains in litigation and oversight, with no final resolution yet. Here's how U.S. major stock indices ended the day, as of market close September 10, 2025. S&P 500 plus 0.3% to 6,532.04, a new closing high. Nasdaq Composite, slight gain, closing at 21,886.06, also reaching a record closing high. Dow Jones Industrial Average, down about 0.5%, closing at 45,490.92 U.S. trade and economic highlights, past 24 hours. U.S. producer prices, PPI, unexpectedly fell by 0.1% in August. This was driven by a drop in trade services margins and a mild rise in goods costs, suggesting domestic demand is softening. On a year-over-year basis, PPI stands at plus 2.6%, which is lower than recent months and below some forecasts, strengthening expectations that the Federal Reserve may start cutting interest rates at its upcoming meeting. U.S. containerized imports rose 1.6% year-over-year in August. However, imports from China dropped about 10.8% amid tariff tensions and policy uncertainty. The U.S. critical minerals list has been expanded. The U.S. Geological Survey now includes more elements like some rare earths and industrial metals under review for potential tariff or regulation changes, part of broader strategy under Section 232 to reduce dependency. Oil prices remain flat, with markets reacting to weak U.S. demand and rising crude/gasoline inventories. Softening economic data weakens demand outlook. The European Union claims to have struck the best possible trade deal with the U.S. under the current administration, granting some exemptions but also facing trade tension over U.S. tariff impositions. And remember, kids, The stock market is not the economy. Just because the S&P 500 or Dow Jones goes up doesn't mean wages are growing, jobs are secure, inflation is under control, people are thriving. U.S. hazardous weather outlook. Next 3 days. South Florida. A stalled frontal boundary over southern Florida will continue to produce heavy rainfall through the next couple of days. Urban and poor drainage areas are at risk of flooding. Northern Great Basin, Rockies, Southwest. A strong Pacific storm is moving in, bringing scattered showers and thunderstorms. Some storms may produce heavy rainfall, especially near burn scars, which increases flash flood risk. Northern and central high plains/Intermountain West. By Thursday, there is a marginal risk of severe thunderstorms. Isolated strong storms are possible across Montana, the Dakotas, extending into parts of the Central Plains. Threats include hail and damaging wind gusts. Northern Plains and Upper Midwest. On Friday, Day 3 outlook, isolated thunderstorms possible, but severe threat is uncertain. Elsewhere, most other regions, Northeast, Southeast, excluding South Florida, Midwest outside Upper Plains, Alaska, Hawaii, are expected to see mostly typical weather over the next few days, with no widespread severe weather threats posted in today's outlooks. Here are some of the most important international news highlights from the past. Global headlines, last 24 hours. In Asia, tech stocks are surging on an AI fever, following a massive jump in Oracle's shares, up 36% in a single session. That move lifted indices across Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea, with optimism that demand for AI-related infrastructure will grow significantly. Oil prices rose after Israel attacked Hamas leaders in Qatar, and as President Trump pushed for tariffs on buyers of Russian oil. However, gains are being tempered by concerns over supply overshoot and weak demand. Gold remains priced near record highs. Weaker U.S. producer price figures have reinforced expectations that the Federal Reserve may cut interest rates soon, though markets are waiting on upcoming U.S. consumer inflation data for clearer direction. In the Middle East, an Israeli official has warned that if their airstrike in Qatar did not eliminate Hamas leadership, they will succeed next time. The strike has stirred international tension and concern over potential escalation. Floods in Bali have killed at least 14 people, with 2 still missing. Search and rescue operations continue amid widespread damage and displaced residents. The U.S. dollar held steady in early Asian trading, buoyed by data showing lower than expected producer prices in the United States. That soft PPI set hopes for a Fed rate cut alive, though markets are cautious awaiting new inflation numbers.